Welcome to the Our Family Matters podcast. This is attorney Jordan Garcia. I'm a partner here at Nevada Family Law Group.
And I'm Keith Pickard, an attorney and partner here as well.
I've told the story a few times about my client who's telling me about how people make money on social media. And he said it like a little kid to me, right? And I said to him, I'm like, do you make money on social media? And it's like, and he had just like your teenager, right? Like, I'm dad talking, and he's just like, no.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious, but I was just like, stop then.
Yeah. Well, it amazes me sometimes how people don't really pay attention to what they put on social media. They're just, it's an expression, right? It's a medium where they feel like they can say whatever they want to say, but they don't consider the repercussions. Obviously we put that in our retainer agreement as a warning for a reason. And I like the Miranda warning. That's in my consults. I usually tell people, this is just like the Miranda warning. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. And that's especially true on social media because people are generally feel more free to say what they feel. And my case today was all about that. Well, in part about that, where my client had said some things on social media he just should not have said. And it comes up, it's exhibit number 1 in their motion. And now it doesn't change the custody outcome because we don't punish parents generally for what they say unless it's to the kid. But yeah, I mean, it's important. Be aware what your audience might do with this.
They do, but what I've had in a couple of cases where at least the clients will complain to me is like, well, I have a First Amendment right to say what I want to say. And my answer to them is, you do have a First Amendment right to say what you want to say, but it can be used against you in court. So buyer beware, right? Beware of what you're going to say because there's nothing that says that can't be used against you.
Right.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want. The other part that comes in usually is when they say to me, and it's a complaint like, well, you're putting the kids in the social media, right? It's something to that effect that they're, don't talk about the kids on social media. And it's like, well, look, there's a balance, right? It's like everything, there's a balance. You can put your kids on social media, but if you've got like a 9-year-old little girl, understand the times that we live in. There's concern that that's going to lead to either some type of, sexual predation because it's online, or that you're going to have other bad actors say or do something. Now, the odds of that, of course, are close to nothing. But it's the perception. And when you're in court, it's all about perception. It's all about the optics. So do you want to go into the judge and argue that I should be able to put my 9-year-old little girl looking all dressed up and cute online when the other parent's saying, but there's other bad people looking at that? Maybe you want to take one step to try to protect that. Can you at least make it private so only family members can see it? Can you show the court that you're doing something to address the concern, not just like, well, it's my kid, I can put him online. It's not a good look.
Yeah. The thing that I see more than anything else is the negative comments in social media, whether it's about the kids or not. The kids have access to it, and that's what the judges are going to be most interested in protecting from, right? Let's not put this out in front of the kids. And if you're going to post the positive. We hear about the downside of social media is that it's a one-sided view of your life, right? Everybody's living the best life, and it's not very real. Well, that's okay in divorce context. Put out the positive stuff. And if you can put out positive things about your co-parent, even better. They're not going to use it against you.
Absolutely, and that's a great way to get them to do it. It's just people don't understand it. They don't understand that, that time with even without the kid, when you're in social media and you're at a party and you're holding this unknown liquid in a glass.
In a huge container,
and somebody says, they're drinking, mounds of look how much alcohol they're drinking. Of course, you can't tell from the photo what's in there, but you've got a party scene in the background. You've got, maybe it looks like somebody has a beer can in some hand somewhere else in the scene. People are going to make potentially the wrong assumption that you brought your kids to a party and you're drinking.
Yeah.
And so maybe you need to take that thought. It's like, maybe I shouldn't post that photo. At least the one with you that has an unknown liquid in a glass that could be alcohol, could not be. because a judge has to look at it from a neutral perspective and say, well, I don't know, but if I'm trying to protect a child, I see you, sir, in a party, other people have alcohol. I have to be concerned that maybe you are drinking alcohol and you brought your kid to this party. Yeah, probably not the case. Probably you weren't drunk. But
and the kids don't even have to be in the picture. But if it's your parenting time and you're at a party, that's the assumption.
That's the assumption, right? And so all the optics, you can do it, but think about it. Think about how it could be used, and don't just start especially once you're in a divorce, right? Because when you're not in the divorce,
nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's all good. But then when it is put in, bam, it's a totally different story. Once you got the divorce or child custody, just everything is out there. And family members too, right? That's the other thing. It's like, well, your family's posting something with your kids. That could be a problem too. If it's not a photo that's, they're not just sitting at grandma's house opening presents. All right, that's fine, right? But if it's, again, that party situation, or if it looks like the child's being unattended or some kind of misconstrued of the situation, and it's posted on social media, example I just had recently is my client has a child that is autistic. There's 6 kids, right? Bunch of boys. There's only one girl. They're into boxing. The brothers. So of course the autistic one, he likes what his brothers. He says his brothers are doing their informal boxing. They like to do the boxing, and he wants to do boxing too, right? Because that's what his brothers do. So the client is like, well, okay, put on some gloves, and we'll just kind of fake spar kind of thing. And it was a real cute photo, right? If you're seeing it's just a family and you understand the circumstances outside of a divorce situation, you're like, oh, this is good. The autistic kid, he's doing something with his mom, his brothers are into it, and it's just very innocuous. Now, put that in that divorce situation that we had, and dad's freaking out. How dare you teach my autistic son violence, and you're boxing with him. He's hitting his mom, and it became this whole huge thing where it should have been innocuous, right? And there's not a good answer to that. Ultimately, it's, okay, let's find solutions. But do you really want to argue with that in front of a judge? No.
Yeah, and the thing I find interesting is with the words that usually go with those photos, right? They weren't thought through. This is why I said before, say something positive. You're much more likely to get a positive response if you're positive in the message, especially when you're talking about your co-parent. So often we see the snide remarks, the little offhanded remarks, the jokes, or what was, that came up today in my hearing where, Dad posted something that he thought was funny, and it wasn't really funny. At least the judge didn't think it was funny. And that's the only, in a contested divorce situation, that's the only opinion that really matters. And so, I tell people all the time, pay attention to what you're saying because it might make a difference. And be positive if you can.
And it's usable in court. It's usable in trial. And it's used all the time. I mean, it's evidence. I would say at least 50% of the cases we use
easily.
some type of social media. It's
easily,
evidence.
and it's your words that they're using your words against you. Maybe not the way you intended to mean them, but they're using your words against you, and those are the most credible statements they can find.
Right, because you didn't know you were under this camera of the court looking at you, and you said this, you did this, right. You sent it out to other people. Now you published it. That's
and if they're false statements, that publication now may have some legal implications attached to them.
The other thing is, don't use it to attack the other person. I've had that come up. Social media, it's, my ex is a so-and-so this and so-and-so that, and it's published out there. And then you bring that into the courtroom. Well, why are you telling your ex or soon-to-be ex, calling them the names that the child can see this? Your child has access to social media because kids have probably more access than you do, know how to get around. And they're going to see this. And they're going to see that you're calling dad a so-and-so to all of, friends and family members. And the judges don't like it. it just doesn't come across well. The positive, though, I've seen it go the other way. The positive can be used in court, too, as trial, where we say, look at dad encouraging the child to have this thing, or being the cheerleader for the mom. Hey, you're having a great time at the baseball game with Susie. Great. Like that cheerleading stuff actually shows, hey, I want to be a co-parent. I want to encourage a relationship with the other parent. It can be a positive, too, not just the negative. And that's actually sometimes way more powerful than the negative stuff.
Yeah, that's been my experience. In fact, when I've had clients in the past that have said some negative things. And so I encourage them to go out and say some positive things, because that can be just as effective, if not neutralizing their argument. It can show, that we're meeting the factors that the court has to look at in terms of encouraging that relationship. So it's always a good idea to be positive, and it never hurts your case. That's the thing. People have said to me, "Well, won't that hurt the case because now I'm kind of admitting things or saying things that they're positive, but I really don't think they should have the kids." And, okay, there may be a balance to be struck there, but at the end of the day, positive remarks about the co-parent are never viewed negatively. And so it's a good use of social media. If you feel compelled to use social media, be positive. Just leave the negative stuff out. It doesn't help anybody.
And encourage family, friends to be on the same page.
Absolutely.
Because judges get this question and issue. Well, you're saying all this stuff, but on the same page I see here, your mom said this. Then the judge is like, "Are you really?" Then it starts looking fake. Then it starts looking so like be responsive. That's the other thing I always tell clients. Like, look, if you've got your new significant other, and they really hate the other side, valid or not, tell them to just stay away.
Yeah.
Stay away.
Yeah.
Unless they can say something positive.
Yeah.
Unless they can be encouraging, just stay away from it as far as possible.
And if heaven forbid and I had this happen a year or so ago, where they didn't invite the family member. It was kind of a distance. I think it was like a cousin who lived in the neighborhood. They said something about mom, and dad did the right thing. Dad jumped in and said, "Hey, don't talk to her. Don't put that out there. Don't say that." Right? And it was right afterward. So dad was obviously responding in an appropriate way, telling family, "Hey, don't do that." And it ended up not being an issue at trial.
And that actually almost does more for you than anything, because it shows you're taking an active involvement in managing the social media. It's not just something, well, it's out there in space, and so how, I don't have anything to do with it. That's just other people.
Oh, it's unlikely the kid will see this.
Right.
It doesn't matter to the judge. That they might is enough.
Right. And that's what people, I think, miss so many times, is they don't get it. Yes, that may be true outside of the microscope of the court, but when you're in the microscope, the real world kind of isn't in play. This is the court world. And in the court world, under that microscope, these things matter, and matter outsized of what they should, but that's the reality of the court system.
Right.
The court has so few things to address, to understand what's going on in your kids' lives, what's going on. They don't have a lot of information, so every little glimmer, every little piece has an outsized impact, because that's all the judge has to work with.
Right. And judges are human, right? They're social mirrors as much as anybody else is. They interpret what they see from their own experience, and so they may be completely wrong, but there's no other way to inform them, right?
Right.
So don't give them the ammunition in the first place. Don't give them the reason to think that you're the bad actor.
So always watch what you're posting. Watch what your kids are posting. Watch what your family is posting. And if you need to remediate it. Try to fix things that come up that shouldn't be there. And obviously, nothing worse than when we don't know about it and then we get the surprise.
Yeah.
So tell us, right? Like you get all of a sudden you go into the hearing, here's this message, and you're like to the client, and you're like, you didn't tell me about that.
Those are always awkward moments in the court.
I mean, you're just kind of stuck there. You're like, all right, I got to come up with something.
And often we can't.
No.
It's like, what do we say to that? You call your co-parent all these vulgar names. There is no response. And so it just sits there. And if the opposing counsel does it right, they're going to let it sit there for a while. They're going to let that judge think about this. And then you're stuck. There's not much you can do at that point. Although at that point you can say, well, look at all these positive things he said, right? If he said it or she said, and that's, we're talking about him a lot. But my experience has been I've seen women just as aggressive on social media, less so than they might be in person.
Yeah.
And so it works both ways.
Oh, yeah. I don't think there's any difference between sexes as far as who puts what out there or who's more aggressive. I'd say it's equal.
I think
too. I think it's again that openness, right? Yeah, it's the internet and it's the social media. I can throw anything out there, and so kind of the social mores that would normally be in place are removed, and people feel like,
yeah,
we can.
I can say anything.
I can say anything. Right?
Yeah. Well, I've had cases where one parent is really good about not putting it in writing. Where the other one does. And so then it seems lopsided. Oh, this one side is just attacking the other, where the reality is in person, the other is being just as aggressive, but they're sharp enough to know don't put it in writing. That happens all the time.
That does too. And then they come in and they say, but they're saying this stuff too. And you're like, but they're not they're not putting it in writing.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's what counts, evidence.
Yeah. Yep.
And if we can't prove it, then we get what your word is against their word.
Yeah.
That's not the best place to be.
No.
This evidence of showing you writing stuff, much better evidence.
Yeah.
For them. Yeah. So don't do that.
So don't do it. Yep. If you're watching this or you're listening to this and you have other questions, other suggestions, things you want us to talk about when it comes to social media, reach out. Talk to us. You can contact us through the website. You can reach out through social media. We do look at that, and ask your questions. If you want personal advice, call our office. Set up a time for a consult. We do free consults. So
and that's the best way. If you've got questions specific to yourself, to your situation, come in, talk to an attorney, ask your questions. We do have free consults. That will get you your specific questions to your situation answered. Otherwise, we can talk a lot about general stuff, but family law is absolutely specific to everybody's case. Each situation is unique. And so you really need to talk with an attorney if you want to get advice specific to your situation.
Yeah, and we should probably be careful when we talk about free consults.
The first consult is free.
Yeah, the first consult is free.
Again and again for free consults. That's not quite how it works.
But they do need to talk to an attorney, not a paralegal, not their neighbor who's been through this.
Or Google's law degree?
Yeah. Your Google search does not equal a law degree. That's right. So, well, thank you for listening. We are here to answer your questions. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. And that should do it for the day.
Appreciate it.